Armed insurgents have attacked the Dalori Internally Displaced Persons camp in Borno State. The attack caused panic in the camp, with many displaced persons fleeing in droves. It is reported by witnesses that the insurgents attempted to invade the capital city, Maiduguri, but diverted to the camp located near the city gate, having met with resistance. Now, I wonder, why wasn't the camp guarded? It's a big question. Well, I still have Fumi Dosuma-Yola here in the studio, and of course, Barrister Emeka Mwadi. Okay, I'll start with you, Barrister Emeka. For a camp, I mean, let's paint a picture. These are people who have been driven from their homes, where they would call home, because of insurgents, and they're staying in an internally displaced persons camp that should be heavily guarded, because you can't be running from fry pan to fire. But in this case, to borrow the Nigerian parlance, they have run from fry pan into the fire. Yeah. One would wonder why there was no security at that time to guard these people, because that attack was a serious one.
Yeah, from the account I read, it wasn't really as if there was no security. I understand the bandits, kind of broke the wall, the fence.
They came from the back.
Came from the back, probably so, and of course started shooting, and they were engaged, of course, by the military. And of course, I understand also there were casualties, but probably 2 persons died. And then they called for reinforcement and all that. So there was security, all right, because again, there are several. I just came back from Maiduguri some days ago, where we went for advocacy visit with our CSO, Ladi, which is supported by UNODC and European Union. But the issue really is that at the end of the day, there are so many of these camps in Maiduguri. There are so many of the IDP camps in Maiduguri. So policing them, of course, is going to pose a challenge. Mm-hmm. That said, I think the city itself is quite lively. You won't even. Well,
of course, from what we hear, Maiduguri is the safest place right now in Borno State.
Kind of. You can actually hardly see a policeman even on the street. A very lively city, really. But again, what you see is that there are pockets of these attacks. And what is also fundamental, really, is that today happens to be the 10th anniversary of the Boko Haram attack. The attack started July 26, 2009. Mm-hmm. So I think this attack was symbolic. It was actually more like to mark that anniversary.
But as security operators, and I'm not in any way trying to, our soldiers are doing a great job. The JTF is doing a great job. It's tough to fight a guerrilla war. Yeah. But it's also best to be 10 steps ahead of whoever it is that is your enemy, knowing that sometimes it's also good to be criminally minded, in this case. Think like an insurgent would think, so that you would preempt whatever it is that they want to do, and they would not take you by surprise. Like I said, I'm not a security operative, but we should be 10 steps ahead of these guys half the time.
I think the world over, nobody's 10 steps ahead of the terrorists. Really. I mean, terrorism doesn't have a plan, so to speak. So you can't, you can say they're going in one direction, and then they're not going in that direction. Do you understand what I mean? So you really can't be 10 steps ahead. I think, really, honestly, the reaction of the military in this particular attack is to be commended. Apparently, they reacted swiftly, mm-hmm. and they got the situation under control. That's on one side. On the other side, I read that they came in at the booking and they stole stuff. So maybe, just maybe, it wasn't a Boko Haram attack. Because from what I heard, it was just to go in and steal and come back out. It wasn't to attack. It wasn't an attack on
the camp.
On the camp.
But this is also not the first time that there have been attacks on the camp. This is the reason for my question. This is not the first time an IDP camp is being attacked by one or a detachment of this insurgents. And hence my question. If this has happened many times, it's just like the case of Chibok. We had a replica for the Dapchi girls. Yeah. So if we had known that hey, these guys might do it again, or they may not, but something could happen. Why don't we lay siege or just always try to?
How many places?
And that's
like
why
he said, yes,
like
how
he
many
said,
places are we going to be? And we don't even have. They don't have enough policing. I mean, I read recently that in Nigeria it was one policeman to, was it 40,000 people, something like that. Meanwhile, in other states, in other countries, it's one policeman to maybe 22,000 people or something. So we're really far behind on the policing, on the forces. And then, even these forces we're talking about, half of them is, forgive me to use the word, corrupt. You know, so we're really working with.
Is it really about corruption or they're stretched thin? Because as we speak right now, show me a place on the Nigerian map that is not experiencing some form of insecurity on a certain level. There's kidnapping on our highways. There's cultism and, you know, clashes of all kinds in different parts of the country. So maybe they are being stretched thin.
I don't agree with you. This when I was coming in from Ikeja, right? I got in there and this policeman stopped me. Madam, what are you giving us for the weekend? I said, Yoga, as you say, I have market in my car. I'm on the way to sell. I don't have any money now. He sees 100 naira in the middle and he was like, give me that money. I said, why? I'm not giving you. Why should I give? Madam, give me now. That guy should go to Boko. He should go to Maiduguri. They should put them where? What are they doing on the streets?
But the police,
and there were like 4 or 5 of them on the streets. All they were doing was, good morning, sir. Happy weekend. What are they doing there?
Do you agree with her that we're not stretched thin? We have enough people, but they're not doing the job.
We don't have enough people.
No, definitely we are stretched. We are stretched thin.
But they're not putting them in the right places.
The figures don't add up. In fact, sometimes you even wonder how we are even. In fact, it's almost like a miracle even that we are even safe. Even as we are here now, because you check all the indices and everything, you see how highly under-policed we are, and you just give thanks that we are even this safe. Because, again, just like we're saying, the policing ratio is very low.
Very low, yes.
You know, probably they're one of the lowest in the world.
In the world, yeah.
Then even the military operations. Of course, because the economy was depressed at some point, again, you even wonder how, you know, this was being funded. Although part of what you also hear is that effectively the military has dealt with this, the terrorists and these operations, that even if they want to clean up the thing in the next 2 days, they should be able to do that. So why is dragging is anybody's guess, you know, because we understand that the battle now is probably just at the fringes, at the border towns, about 4 or 5 border towns in Maiduguri. That's really where the battle is fierce, you know. But aside from that, much of the city and every other place is okay, except for, again, this issue of banditry here and there and things, you know. Again, you align it with the fact of Nigeria's landmass and everything, which is, again, what I say about we're even lucky that we are this safe. Because, again, when you talk of the strategies for combating these things, you know, although the point she made again about being an asymmetric war, because these bandits, you may never know where they're going to strike from. Like someone was saying, you know, it's not like they're wearing uniforms and you say this is the enemy. So Faceless. They just take out some loose targets and strike and make the headlines. So at the end of the day, I'm not sure the military is doing badly. I think we've come a long way from probably some years back when they had mass expanse of land they were controlling.
There's been a pushback. But going forward, before we wrap things up, of course, the president is having this policy meeting, and as part of that, the insecurity should be a front burner issue, being that we don't just have Boko Haram or ISWAP, as they call them today, to deal with. We have protesters who have literally made Abuja become a hotbed of sorts, and of course kidnapping and killings. What should be the joint task force priority as we speak going forward? How do we deal with this issue of not having enough policing, the security operatives being stretched thin, the welfare of these people being a priority also, and of course arming these people? Because I remember that video from last year where soldiers were complaining that they had obsolete equipment to work with, and it was not a match in any way for those they were fighting against. Going forward.
Okay, first of all, I think policing or security is not just the work of the police. It's for everybody. You know, and as I keep saying, the people who live in areas where there's kidnapping going on, they know these people, right? So we ourselves need to take responsibility. You know, the sooner we take responsibility, the easier it will be on all of us. So security is not just for the police, it's for everybody. You should be able to say, okay, this thing is wrong, and be able to find someone where you can whistle blow or send a message, you know, that kind of thing. The police they need to think about that more often. They need to think about it, you know, well, and find a way to get whistleblowers safe, you know, and stuff like that. That is where I was talking about insecurity. I know people who have whistleblown, and the next day they were the ones that were attacked. So there's a lot of loopholes there. If we can get people, what's the word to use? If people are secure in knowing that the police force is on their side, then they will get more people, and then that would also help with the security situation in the country. That's one of the things I think we really need to get. And then we have vigilante groups. That's one of the things I thought we should do. Vigilante groups in different areas. Each CDA, mostly in Lagos that I know, have some form of vigilante groups. We should be able to find a way to work with these vigilante groups, you know, to help us with the security.
Okay, Pastor, finally.
Yes. For me, rule of law is very key. For instance, there's been arguments as regards how even this Boko Haram war started, and it was probably the extrajudicial killing of their leader or whatever, you know. And now you see more or less the same pattern playing out with these IMN people. So, and why the court system and all that. And you discover a situation where the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court was to be sworn in. Now there's a vacuum. We don't have a Chief Judge in Nigeria of the Federal High Court. We don't even have an acting Chief Judge. It's never happened before. So these are rule of law issues that must be dealt with. So when you deal with it strictly as a rule of law issue, removing politics and everything, you know, you get a better result. So as regards the security again, funding is key. I want to believe they are getting sufficient funding, because I don't want to believe that the National Assembly will deny them funding as regards prosecuting the war. But just like my colleague said also, intelligence is very key in recent war, prosecuting this kind of war. Intelligence is probably number one. So if probably they got intel on this attack the last night, it probably wouldn't have happened. So very key, because recent modern war is not about brick and mortar. We
keep making reference to this modern world, but you know, we're still playing catch up to that modern world. But I want to say thank you to you, Barrister Emeka Nwadioke, and of course Fumi Ayola Dosumu. Thank you very much, ladies, gentlemen, for being our guests this evening. Well, we'll take a short break and bring you our Plus reports, and when we return, I'll be giving you my take. Stay with us.
The Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum has urged the House of Representatives to shun any interference in the crisis in the Edo State House of Assembly. The group spoke to newsmen in Abuja, dismissing the reports of the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on the matter, saying it was hastily done and not true reflection of the crisis. Elder statesman Edwin Clark, who was speaking on behalf of the group, urged the House of Representatives to exercise restraint in its bid to take over the State House of Assembly and wait for a decision of the court, which is already deliberating on the matter.
It is only the National Assembly, that is the Senate and the House of Representatives acting together that can interfere with the affairs of Edo State House of Assembly. It is not the duty. The haste. They set up a committee, went to Edo State, interviewed everybody, came back within 1 week, wrote a report, and said that the governor should rescind his proclamation, which is provided for in the law. The main fact that is different between the proclamation made by Mr. President and that of governor does not make it irregular. It's only the court that can interpret it. Every governor has a way of writing his own proclamation. They should therefore allow the court, which is the case is already in court, to declare whether what the governor has done through his proclamation is wrong, valid, or not valid. And it's not the duty of a House of Representatives, like military people, ordering the chop down within 1 week, asking the governor to rescind the proclamation. It's irregular.
It's time for my take. Now, a lot has happened over the weekend into this week, and of course, we're back on a Friday talking about almost the same thing: insecurity, instability. We're talking about infrastructure, and the biggest story for the week has been the swearing in of ministers without portfolios. Hopefully, by next week we'll find out who these ministers or what portfolios these ministers will be handling. But while Mr. President and the APC are looking at the way forward in dealing with the problems of Nigeria, as they have said, we will hope that we would see a better adjustment in the area of infrastructure, would see different things being done in the area of the economy. And that's, you know, let's see that the economy is actually growing. Let's not pay lip service. We like to hear when, you know, lovely words are being thrown out there or the president is talking tough, but we want to see action in those areas. Amazingly, thank God, the APC party chairman, the national chairman, has said that poverty and, of course, our population growth is a big issue. We would like to see more employment. We would like to see more engagement of all of these people, especially young people who need to get jobs. We need to see new businesses opening up to these people so they could be absorbed, because you know what they say, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. And so if we do not want to have devil's workshops all over the country, other than the ones we're dealing with, let's have more opportunities out there for them. And talking about the issue of insecurity and the Boko Haram attack on the IDP camps, we're hoping that these people can be more secured and we can have better intel as to where these people are moving, where they're coming to, so that these people who have lost their homes will not also be sleeping with one eye open, even as they are still trying to get over the insurgency and what it has done to them and their homes. We're hoping that by this time next week, we'll be hearing better stories and better news as it concerns our dear country, Nigeria. I'm Maryann, and it's been Plus Politics.